So we're starting out having you log into Menti. So the first thing we want you to do is we're going to use Menti throughout this to get individual information from you. And the first thing we want you to respond to is, which superpower would you like to have? Well, we want you to stay logged in to Menti because we're going to use that as a way for you to provide some input for the school district. So I'm Brad Neuenslender. I'm the director for the Center for Evaluation and Educational Leadership at KU. KU started this because they used to get a lot of requests from school districts. Hey, can you send a team out to do some stakeholder input on strategic planning? Or could you come and do an evaluation of our special education department? Whatever it is, a lot of times school districts want a third party to come out because, you know, as a former school superintendent, I knew whenever I walked in the room, the culture changed. And they want stakeholders to provide input. So KU would get those requests, and finally, so I used to be deputy commissioner at the State Department of Education. I know a few of you in here, but I received a call one day and said, hey, would you like to come start this new center? So this is kind of my last chapter in my educational career, and I'm doing a project with Lawrence, we're doing a project with KCK, and we are here because Kelly Bielefeld, the new superintendent, said, I would like to have someone outside come in and do this, because if I do it, there will always be that biased lens. So that's why we're here. I have two other individuals joining us. So Suzanne, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Suzanne Robinson. I am a recent retired professor from the University of Kansas, where I've been for 40 years in the Department of Special Education. Have worked with Brad on some evaluations. Over the years, I've done a lot of teacher preparation. I've run our teacher preparation programs in high incidence disabilities and in our unified elementary ed program. I've also worked over the years with numerous national and state departments, national centers, departments of education on systems reform. So this work, both in the trenches with teachers and how do systems operate, right up my alley. So this is a retirement activity to keep my hand in.
And I'm Deborah Regier. I'm also a retired educator. My career has been all in Kansas in K-12 schools. I was a teacher, business education teacher, gifted education teacher for most of my career. And the last 15 years, I was a middle school principal in the Andover district. So this is I've been retired now for 2 years, and I also currently work for Cognia. I work with their accreditation reports and do some reviews there, but this was also a great opportunity to get out from behind the computer and interact with more people. So really excited to be doing this work.
Kelly called me a while back, and he said, our current strategic plan in the district is 5 years old. And we need some stakeholder input about our current strategic plan. And these were 3 essential outcomes and objectives that they wanted us to glean out. And the first thing they want to know is what additions and modifications are needed to the current strategic plan. The second thing is they said, you know, we'd like to know from our stakeholders what opportunities do we need to consider continuing, adding, or modifying to support students to be future ready. So we're going to spend a little bit of time about what the current opportunities they provide, and then we'll get some input on that. And then finally, they're like, what are the top skills, both life and academic skills, should our students have to be ready to be successful in the future? So we're going to end with kind of talking about what are some of those skills. And then we'll go back to Menti and get your individual input. Menti's a great way for us to capture your individual voice. And all of that is anonymous. The Menti, we won't know that who it came from in here. We just know representatives from higher ed believed this or felt strongly about that. So Wichita is the largest school district in the state. We're just going to visit a little bit about what's the uniqueness of Wichita, because not everybody really understands that. There are 286 school districts in the state. 11% of all the students reside in Wichita. You know, you think about, being the largest school districts, most people in the state of Kansas, the average school district from kindergarten to senior is 550 kids. We're rural. So that's one thing that makes Wichita so unique. You got 46,000 kids, 11% of all the kids in the state go to school in Wichita. 94 learning centers. The students represent 93 different countries. And there are 112 languages spoken in those 94 centers. That baffles a lot of people. Really? 112 languages? That's extremely unique for any school district. The school district is the third largest employer in the 3-county area, which in a lot of communities, the school district is the hub. Your kids, all the people that are employed and work, so it's a huge economic engine for Wichita, 5,600 full-time employees. This is their new mission. They voted on and changed this 2 weeks ago. Achieve readiness for life, college and career through an innovative and impactful educational experience. Again, this was just approved by the board 2 weeks ago. Their vision, they want to be the premier district of choice. Now, I think this is kind of unique for a lot of school districts because the legislature just recently passed legislation that any kid in the state can go to any school district. Now, a lot of districts would accept out-of-district students, but not all of them did because they were growing, they were unique, they were just trying to, so Wichita is saying, we want to be the premier choice. We want to have programs, we want to have services that no matter where a kid lives, they want to be a Wichita Public School student. So you have this copy of their current strategic plan. It's 5 years old. They have 4 goals in there that we're going to touch briefly on. The first one is increased graduation rates. We all know that COVID had a huge impact on higher ed, on school districts, on businesses. But during the past 5 years, they had a goal that we want to go from 74% to 80% in the next 5 years. And they achieved that. And I think that's outstanding. They went from 74 to 80.4. But this was a huge accomplishment, especially during a pandemic. But they've got 20% that aren't. So one of the things that you'll discuss about, is this something that you believe they ought to still be focusing on? And if so, are there any modifications? So you'll have some time to discuss that. The second one is the increased third grade proficiency. They wanted to go from almost 22% to 44%. Well, we all know what happened during the pandemic. And no one wants to make excuses, but at that time I was deputy commissioner and I oversaw all the standards and assessments. And so I pretty much knew where everybody was. Every school district in the state, when you look at the percent of students at levels 3 and 4, on the state assessments, all results went down statewide. There might have been some outliers. Wichita was very similar. They went from 21.9, they went down around 18%. But in the last 2 years, they're back up to 21.4. So they've actually are starting to come out of that COVID effects. At the same time, in the last couple of years on the state assessments, they've moved more students out of the lowest performance category, which is a huge goal, and they've moved more students into the top two, the 3 and 4. So last couple of years, they're making really good progress. They're kind of coming out. That's the same way when you look at state data. Some districts aren't. They're still flat. They're still challenging with that. But what's unique on local assessments, they've had, in the last 2 years, they've had some of the highest increases in the history. So there's some positives to it, but at the same time, the percent of students at levels 3 and 4, they're just now kind of back to where they were 5 years ago. Increased certifications and college credit. They want more kids to graduate not only with a diploma, but 1 or more market value assets. They were only able to start measuring this about 2 years ago. Even though they set the goal, they were trying to figure out, how do we measure this? They're now at 49% of their graduates also have 1 or more market value assets. A lot of people are like, well, what are market value assets? This is what we're talking about. Things like college credit. They've scored well on the FAFSA. They've the ACT, AVID. We have a lot of kids graduating with some college credit, some certifications. So these are those market value assets that they're really trying to focus on, not only get a high school diploma, but we want you to have 1 or more of these. And they're at 49%. The fourth one, they want schools trusted as safe places. Their goal was they wanted to have 90% of parents, staff, students. One of the challenges when the legislators passed that in order to measure this, families have to opt in. It used to be they could opt out. Now they have to opt in. Well, a lot of parents don't even know, so their student information really isn't that clear in the last 2 years because a lot of parents are not engaged enough to really be able to say, I want to opt my kid into this. But with parents, 98% of the parents agree that they are welcomed and treated with respect. This is what the Safe and Civil Schools survey that school districts all across the state use. 97.8% of parents believe the staff make the school a safe place. And about the same percent, 97.9% of parents feel that their students are safe at school. So this has been a huge goal and priority for the school district because it was their 4th goal in their strategic plan. Let's talk about the opportunities that Wichita currently offers. Right now, Wichita has 25 pathways, career tech ed pathways. Yes, they're the largest school district. They're very unique. I remember when I was superintendent at Cheney, we didn't have swimming. We didn't have orchestra, but the larger you are, they take very pride in the fact that they have 25 pathways, and there's a lot of variety. These types of pathways that are available currently to the school district. They also, when we talk about work-based learning, industry tours, mentorship, internships, on-the-job training, career fairs. These are a lot of the work-based learning opportunities that are currently available. Information used to be expensive. Students had to come and sit in front of you to get the information, but experiences were cheap back then. You know, we had paper routes, we worked on farms, we mowed lawns, those kind of experiences were cheap. Now, information is inexpensive. We all have our phones, we can Google, we can do whatever, we can find out. I was not a mechanic. I didn't bless my 2 kids with being able to raise the hood and be able to work. We change oil and stuff. But my son, my wife has a 4-door Jeep Wrangler. And my son was like, we got to trick that thing out. So we installed a new front bumper, new rear bumper, put a 3.5-inch lift kit on it, put a winch on the front. We got KC light, and my wife's like, what are you guys doing? And we did all of that, and guess how we did it? YouTube. So information is inexpensive now, but it's the experiences that kids are hard to find. So these are the types of things that Wichita is currently providing, that experience, that work-based learning experiences. They also have things to keep kids engaged during the summer with internships, camps, summer jobs. And here's a few other things that aren't on there. Advanced placement, international baccalaureate, early college, they have an early college academy, AVID, athletics, fine arts, esports. Some people are like, what's an esport? Well, there's a lot of kids, may not be on the court or the field or on stage or whatever, but you can now, a lot of kids engaged in those esports. Okay, so the last part, they want to know what skills do our students need to have upon graduation to be successful in the future. So I'm just going to share with you, a lot of people, is it life skills? Is it soft skills? Is it employability skills? Regardless of what you term it, there's been a lot of studies on it. This is a Harvard, Stanford study. Nationally, they met with business industry to find out what types of skills are important for employers to be successful. 85% of those skills fell in that soft employability. 15% were kind of the technical. They have to have content knowledge. They have to be able to, algebra, all they understand, but 85% landed in that soft skill area. And we're going to talk about those soft skills and what they mean. This was a Future of Jobs report. They did a study of business and industry. These were the top 10 that came out of that study. Complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, coordinating with others. When they talked about, well, what are the skills business is wanting? This study, that's what they came up with, and that was in 2020. This is a little hard to read, but this was the National Association of Colleges and Employers. What are the skills that employers seek on new college graduate resumes? Leadership, ability to work in a team, communication skills, problem solving, strong work ethic, initiative, analytical, qualitative skills. So in this study, businesses were asked, what is the skilled talent that businesses need? And the number one hardest jobs to fill is the skilled trade workers. There's just a lack of students coming out with those skilled trades. You think about Wichita, our capital of the world. But when they ask employers, students need employability skills, executives, they said 89% of their employees that they had to release, especially their young ones, it was because they lacked the employability skill part of it. This is, we call the wheel. This is out of the University of Kansas. School districts all across the state use this competency wheel. It's got the intrapersonal skills, Those are the things that I need personally to be successful. Things like self-awareness, self-care, perseverance, self-regulation. The interpersonal, those are the skills I need to have to be successful working with others. Teamwork, networking, conflict management, empathy. Do I have the ability to empathize with others? And then, of course, the cognitive, that's where you get content knowledge. But you also have critical thinking, problem solving, learning schema. And the unique thing is, very few of us have all of those. We're all individually unique. But it's how do we help students find the strengths, find the areas that they're lacking, whatever, and kind of give them a good balance so they can be successful. You know, I've got a daughter and I got a son. People would ask me, did you adopt them? Because how did they both come from think about your own kids. Are they identical? No, they're all different. My kids on their life jackets, we love boating. One of them said, my son was Tigger and my daughter was Eeyore. They were completely opposite. So that's okay, we know that. But what was unique, we surveyed 7,300 Kansas students and said, what skills are you lacking most that you need help on? And you can look consistently across males, females, 6th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade, self-regulation. They have difficulty sustaining attention. This is 7,300 Kansas kids. And then it kind of gets in, we have struggle with initiative, assertiveness, conflict management. You know, these are Kansas students, what they said. When you're looking at that wheel, I want you to think about your son, your daughter, your grandchild, whatever, someone important to you. Pick your top 3 skills off of that wheel that you think you would love. If they could have 3 skills that were really important, what would you think those top 3 skills would be? It'd be nice to have them all, but most of us don't have them all. What do you think are the 3 most important? Now, what's going to be interesting is we've got 13 of these groups. So not only will we know, here's what the higher ed community thought, we'll be able to look across all of them. We'll also be able to then combine them all and say, Wichita patrons felt strongly about these. So we want to thank you for coming. Your voice is very important. Again, thank you for coming.